SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday Eve.
Man, it's some kind of hot out there. I don't know why we keep saying that, but I guess I will, because it's hot. It's those days where it's so hot it hurts. It's not just hot. It's like painful.
It's supposed to be a tad bit cooler today than it was yesterday, though.
Jeez, what does that mean? 98? Something like that?
I want to say the high in central Mississippi today is just north of 90.
Wow. Feels like it's that right now. I don't know. Okay. Well, we can deal with it.
We got the clouds moving across the Magnolia State today, different parts of the state.
Yeah.
And haven't seen any predicted severe weather, but apparently it's enough to cool us off a bit.
Yeah, might get a little shot of rain, a little afternoon variety.
The only problem with rain when it's this hot is if it doesn't rain enough, it just turns into a southern sauna.
Man, ain't that the truth? Let's hope it's not that way, but it's maybe wishful thinking for the Neshoba County Fair. Coming up next week, Mississippi's giant house party, back and bigger than ever. And, of course, SuperTalk Mississippi will be there at Founders Square. You got MidDays with me. I'm going to be there. Oh, it's updated. I'm going to be there Wednesday. And mornings with Richard Cross and MidDays will be on hand Thursday. So it looks like I'm good for 2 days next week. Wow. I got to set the old drums up on the stage at some point, too. We're going to be performing is the house band at 1 o'clock on the 31st. That's Thursday, right there at the track on the big stage. We got practice today. I went down to the Trade Mart to unload my drums. Got a little sweaty doing that. It's a bit of a walk from where you park there, where we practice in the Trade Mart, across the floor into the room where we practice. We're looking forward to that. That's coming up later on this afternoon. We got a bunch of news for you to break down. We had earnings reports yesterday from Tesla and Google, Alphabet. Turns out Alphabet, let's start with them, man, they blew it out. They had a great quarter, beating both top-line revenue and bottom-line net income. But the thing that I took away from the report, and so are investors, is that they announced that their capital investments for 2025 will be increased by $10 billion. That's a bunch. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's up to $85 billion. That's their CapEx for the year, $85 billion. Now, you know what really grinds the gears of the Democrats, Rhino? Is that they get to write all that off this year. Oh, the horror. Pay no attention. I know, it's second-order thinking, pardon me. Pay no attention to the numerous sellers of all this CapEx stuff they're buying. Tons of them with lots of employees. And then guess what? You got to have people in the transportation business to deliver, ship and deliver all that stuff. They don't think about that. I know they don't. And I'm going to make a wager here. I don't know who I'm going to bet. Chuck Schumer, because you know he's the one that hates this, that they announced this increase of $10 billion because of the reconciliation bill that just passed. You know that was their thinking here. Wait, we can write it all off now like the good old days? And that, of course, was the basis for Joe Biden. I'm going to pronounce it like Caroline Levitt does, Joe Biden. That was the basis for him saying, you know, these 50 corporations made $40 billion and didn't pay any income tax. That's because, like Alphabet just announced, they spent a ton of money on CapEx, and they wrote it off. Never thinking about, of course, because as you point out so correctly, it requires a bit of second-order thinking. Hell, Joe Biden couldn't do first-order thinking, much less second.
But he got a $10 million advance on his memoir.
I saw that. That's just crazy.
Dude can't remember what room he's in, but he's going to write memoirs.
That is totally crazy.
Pretty sure the root word of memoir is memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Of which he has none.
So Alphabet blew it out. Their revenue on the top and bottom line, their revenue was $96 billion for the quarter. Wow. So they're on nearly a $400 billion annual revenue run rate. They made $2.31 a share. The expectation was $2.18. So this is something we talk about a lot because you and I both use YouTube. A lot of people do. And you're going to have to endure some ads, generally speaking, when you're on YouTube. It's very effective advertising, let's be honest. If it weren't, people wouldn't do it.
Well, it's effective advertising for Patreon and Subscribestar and all these other services.
That's
where
true.
I can give somebody $1 a month and I can watch their videos without having to see the ads.
It's true. So, they produced $9.8 billion of advertising revenue last quarter. Pardon me. That's a bunch.
I'm only dragging them down a little bit. Maybe that's why I only get ads in other languages. That's
just incredible. Operating expenses came in at about $26 billion. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking for it right now, I believe they made net income was, $28 billion. So you can do the math there. What's that, a run rate of about $112 billion for the year? That's impressive. Apple last year, of course, $120 billion, still the world's most profitable company. Microsoft in the $90 to $100 billion range. Incredulously, NVIDIA, $90 billion on revenue of $120. I know I'm digging through all these numbers, but I'm just thinking about the explosion of all these companies that are driving the economy in this country and in the world. And the president gets that because yesterday he had a huge announcement, press conference, where he laid out the strategy, this country's strategy for artificial intelligence. And the thing I liked that he said most of all was that we will not be a laggard. We will be the leader in artificial intelligence. And he laid out his plan for that. I thought it was well done, honestly. Issued an executive order, 3 major pillars contained in that order, promoting exports to partner with industry and facilitate the export of secure, full-stack hadn't heard that word since I was in business, full stack AI packages, which includes all the infrastructure, the various AI models, of course, software, to our allies and partners. Now, we hope and expect that this will be done in a most secure fashion. Of course, we've got infrastructure. That means building out AI data centers, and we need to be building semiconductors, and we've got to have the energy to support AI. This was all part of the order. Deregulating and streamlining, reducing the red tape associated with these permits and regulations and other obstacles that hinder innovation. This is just good. I mean, I'm so pleased to see this. Of course, we need some training. We need some workforce development as well. And the president's order prioritizes AI skill development in federal education and workforce program. There's some tax benefits also discussed for AI training. Looking for an AI workforce research hub. And then an approach, a strategy to counter our adversaries, to strengthen export controls on AI, and working with our allies to counteract these adversarial threats. But all good stuff. So pleased to see this from our president at the federal level. Again, I am so optimistic. The best is yet to come, folks. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio. It's Danielle Morgan with the Mississippi Tourism Association at 11:05. This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let's go.
Little 38 special.
And if you're listening to us with headphones, it probably feels a little weird hearing the vocals out of your left ear.
That's true.
It's one of those songs in stereo that I loaded it probably 15 different times with 15 different versions and never could get it to work right because we got one channel.
Unbelievable. Yep. Well, I just bought made me think of it, one of these turtle boxes. You seen those little Bluetooth speakers?
Oh, yeah.
And you can buy two and pair them to produce a stereo. How about that? So I got one to put on my golf cart. It's magnetized, so it fits real nice on the post of the golf cart there, the covered golf cart. I'm thinking about getting two so I can have stereo on the golf course. It's very high quality, and they will play very loud, too. Those are powerful little boxes, but they ain't cheap. Good stuff. But
do you have an outfit nearly as loud as Rodney Dangerfield?
I do not. I need one. I need that and a tap in my golf bag. If you're going to have
stereo
right?
sound system on the golf course, you got to up the outfit game.
That's true. He comes out, I have one of those and one of these for my friend over here. That's so good. There's so many great things from there. But let's see, on the golf course, it was any way you want it, right? That's the Journey song. So. Isn't that what they broke down to? He was dancing to it with one of those loud outfits on. Had a big sound system built into his golf bag, as I require. I think it was any way you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just looking at the president's executive order here, it's entitled America's AI Action Plan Winning the Race. This is awesome. You know, does this not kind of remind you just a little bit of President John F. Kennedy in the space race? Similar in that respect, that you have a president that understands the future and appreciates that and the value of this technology and the need for this country to be the leader in the technology. And there are three pillars, like we said, and the headline titles of the three pillars: accelerate AI innovation, number one. Number two, build American AI infrastructure. And number three, lead in international AI diplomacy and security. So I had a friend that just texted me.
Just missed it.
What's that?
That last one should have started with a word that starts with C.
Oh.
The ABCs of AI.
I didn't think about that. That would have worked, huh? Yeah, because you have an A, a B, and an L. Yeah, that's a good point.
For all the people in the government focused on freaking acronyms, and they missed that one.
That's a good point. Man, they should have hired you to do this. We could have come up with some word that starts with a C, right, that would have fit this category, would have described this category. And then in each of those pillars, as you can imagine, there are numerous subtopics. Just looking at the table of contents here, it's a 23 page document. It's well done, though, and it's just awesome. Do you think this would have happened if we had a President Joe Biden or Kamala Harris?
Probably not.
I don't think so, because they're so focused on a bunch of other worthless crap. They prioritize all that stuff. Things like this, which we should be prioritizing, in my view, this president has, and I seriously doubt, honestly, Donald Trump
would probably be spending more money we don't have on racist bridges and intersectionality.
That's what I was thinking. We'd be still all leaning into the DEI stuff. I don't think there's any doubt.
And all the different, insert word here, deserts that people experience across the country.
That has become sort of the traditional way, the typical way, not traditional way of describing, right, these areas of the country where something is in short supply. Everything's a desert now. We got to address the desert. Yeah, you're right. I had a friend that sent a text, and this is a good question. And I think you would agree, Rhino, this is a common I don't know if I'd call it a question, but a just lack of further, deeper understanding of artificial intelligence. That most people see it and use it as just a high-powered search engine. And so what can the technology do beyond that? We don't have enough time to talk about that, but I would say right now that the typical individual user, that's probably how they're using it. But the area there are two areas that are getting the most attention and most use application of artificial intelligence. And that's customer service and now healthcare. Healthcare is rapidly advancing its use, its implementation of AI across the range of healthcare. And I was talking to a good friend this weekend who's a radiologist who was discussing, of course, that is an area that is a prime candidate for AI, simulate human decision-making. So I guess that's the way I would distinguish the use of AI as just a powerful search engine and the use of AI for other deeper and more consequential, more valuable use cases. And that's the ability to simulate human intelligence. Doing the search engines, I would already say, did that a little bit, but they didn't so much think for you. What the search engines now, including AI, are doing is just a deeper dive and then presenting content. Rather than just saying, here's where you can learn more, typical search, right? I want to know more about this. Boom, here are entries that we found on the Internet that you can dig into to learn more. Now what you can get in the various search engines, if you have it turned on, if you activate it and you engage it, it'll come back and say, hey, look, we went and read a bunch of stuff on your behalf, just like a human would. Here's a summary, for example. Well, just for the heck of it, on the break, I did a simple search using AI where I said, hey, show me some AI use cases beyond search engines. And it came back and said, yeah, here's the way AI is being used. And as I thought, it did say AI-powered customer service chatbots and really everything associated with the customer experience in IT support, for example. Instead of, well, I'm on hold, wait for somebody to come on and tell me what to do here. Or
you have three options if you call tech support.
Yeah.
You have the computer, which is getting better thanks to AI.
Yep.
But for the longest time, it was hard to understand and even more difficult to get it to work right. 2, a guy that claims to be named Dave, but doesn't sound like anyone that would be named Dave.
That's right.
Or 3, long wait times with bad music.
That's a good point. So we're seeing lots of companies implement customer engagement bots and AI tools that not. So you could also say, here's the FAQs, right? Go read those, or give me some information, and I'll just send you a standard response back. That's not really AI. But now what you can do in some of these tools is, hey, this is the kind of problem I'm having, boom, and it'll come back and essentially return to you a response that to some extent does simulate what a human support person would do. Now,
to the point where the Grok AI has assistants, like these people that will animate and talk to you. And you can get them to teach you a lesson on a subject.
It's true.
And it's like sitting for a lecture. You can ask it questions, you can stop it and start it. I mean, it's wild.
So that's a huge area that's being implemented really across a large range of industries, whether it's financial or healthcare or technology. Just anytime you need help from somebody on something, some third party, using these AI tools as a front end, I think it's incredibly powerful and more efficient and provides a better experience. Now, there's some situations where you have to escalate it to a human, and you can do that as well. And there are a lot of people, as you know, that I don't want that. I just want to talk to a person. And there are definitely some issues where it can't handle. Now, today, my favorite example use case that I read about, because they implemented it maybe 2 years ago, is Walmart. In their, I know I've talked about it before, in their procurement. You want to be a vendor to Walmart, and they got gazillions of vendors, as you can imagine. So in the old days, you would submit an application and a proposal in accordance with their forms and formats, and somebody in procurement would review all that. And then if you made the cut, they'd call you and you negotiate terms and pricing. It was a human-to-human interaction. And now it's all automated using AI. Walmart has reported that they've negotiated better terms and better pricing using the AI technology than they did when humans were negotiating that with their vendors. And it's a much more streamlined process. And the vendors...
Because the AI is not trying to get the vendor's phone number.
That's right. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
From the seat.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Satellite send 200 function remote control, big screen TV with stereo, football, baseball.
Okay, so right on, my friend said, good answer, thanks. Now do the same with blockchain technology and you'll be a national hero. I can't explain blockchain technology at the high level. Amazingly, it has its roots in technology IBM invented. I remember this vividly in my early work days. Back in the 70s, it's called distributed databases. And the underlying power of blockchain is the fact that the data that is inserted into the blockchain lives on what's called a peer-to-peer network, on multiple networks, multiple devices, multiple storage units. So it's essentially replicated across the world. That's why it's so dang hard, if not impossible, to penetrate and to alter. And anytime a transaction is inserted into the blockchain, that is replicated, just like for cryptocurrency. But what makes the magic work is what's called a hash number. Now, back in the old days, I'm talking a long time ago, Rhino, rather than you entering data online on all these devices we have today and doing your own work, there was a time, believe it or not, when in a typical company, let's say an accounting system, somebody in the accounts payable department would do a document for every invoice to be paid, and they would code it to certain accounts and blah, blah, blah. Well, they'd send that down to a data entry pool of people that would sit in front of computers, terminals back then, connected to mainframes or mid-range computers, and they'd key in that data from the documents. I'm giving a simple case with accounts payable. Maybe it's checks from accounts receivable, as an example. But to make sure that they enter the data correctly, accurately, as per the numbers on the document, talking about the data entry person, you're subject to making an error, believe it or not, when you key that data in. You would also enter what's called a hash number. And the hash number would be some formula using the numbers that you just entered. And you'd enter that hash number. Sometimes it'd be just a single number on the back of the big number. Let's say, for example, you're paying an invoice of $1,500, and you enter $1,500, but mistakenly you enter $1,400. But you got an additional digit on the end called a hash number that is some formula of the digits in the string, the 1,400. So if it's, for example, the sum of those numbers, and so it'd be a 6, 15006. Well, if you entered 14006, boop, that don't add up. That's a hash number. I hope that's a simple, easy to understand example. But that's the magic behind blockchain, is every transaction has a hash number. Now, it's way more complicated than the example I just gave you. They also call it a block header. So guess who figures those hash numbers out? Miners. They're essentially hackers, is what they are.
M-I-N-E-R-S.
Yes, thank you.
Although I'm sure some of them are mining.
That's true. And a lot of people ask that question, what do they mean by Bitcoin mining? So what they're doing is they're using these super powerful computers, and you know what they have in those computers? NVIDIA GPUs, because somebody figured out that these GPUs that NVIDIA is getting rich selling to artificial intelligence applications work pretty good for doing Bitcoin mining.
Because the most strenuous thing you put a normal computer through before Bitcoin mining was rendering 3D graphics.
That's exactly right. And that's what NVIDIA invented. They invented technology that optimizes. And in the early days, you'd install an NVIDIA. You'd have a computer that had a standard processor, an NVIDIA processor. Still have that today. That's the architecture. But when the main processor would get a part of the code that says, as you said, I need 3D graphics, and I'm describing this at a super high level here. It's here, NVIDIA chip, you handle that, and I'll take on the next task in the code. That's the way it works. Well, in the case of blockchain, what these Bitcoin miners have are rooms full of computers with NVIDIA GPUs and central processors in them that are mining across the world all the blockchains systems that support Bitcoin. And then what they're trying to do is race to see who can get the correct hash number. And it's an extremely random number based on some crazy cryptographic formula. And they're running it. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Using AI to do that. And the first one to solve the problem and get the correct hash number gets paid in Bitcoin. Right. Exactly. So it was a brilliant concept by the creators of Bitcoin that, hey, wait, this concern people may have about people hacking the Bitcoin ledger in blockchain and changing things up and screwing everybody over. You know what? The people who were most suited to do that, we're going to actually pay them to keep things straight. It's like paying crooks to literally to guard some asset. except they get paid handsomely in Bitcoin. And their operation.
White hat hacking.
That's exactly what it is. It's people that turned the leaf away from being black hat, nefarious, malicious hackers to, wait, I can actually use these skills for something good and make money doing it. And that's how it works. So they literally have been.
Kevin Mitnick that went to prison and got out and became a white hat hacker?
Yes.
Kind of like the most famous early one?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a brilliant architecture, in my view. So your transaction is sent to a memory pool, and then the memory pool takes it, queues it up, and then a miner picks it up and then sends it into the blockchain with the correct hashtag. But it don't go in it until it's got the correct hash number associated with it. It's really cool. But the biggest thing to keep in mind is that your data is spread across all these computers, not just living in one place. Oh, my gosh, if something happens to that one, I'm out. No, it's everywhere, and it's constantly updated and replicated. And if there's any break in the chain, the thing self-heals because the miners come in and fix all that. It's a brilliant concept.
One way I've heard it explained to those that don't think in ones and zeros but have some experience with a bank.
Okay.
It's loosely like the FDIC as insurance protection for your money that you deposit at that branch of that particular bank. It's not like the old Wild West where they just had a big old vault and they put your gold coins and dollar bills in the vault, and if somebody came and robbed it, well, sorry, the bank doesn't have your money anymore. FDIC ensures that everybody's protected as long as they're under this umbrella. And if you lose, I know they had a limit on the amount.
Yeah.
But most people never reach that.
Yep.
If you lose anything under this due to a bank robbery, it's still yours. Like, I know it's not a great one-to-one analogy, but if you understand how that works with banking, it's not that big of a leap to understand how, Bitcoin is a transaction ledger that everybody has access to and everybody's got a copy of, and nobody can change all the copies. Kind of like nobody can rob all the banks. There's still going to be money to pay your bills, even though they stole all the money out of this bank's vault.
That's a good analogy. I like that. That's exactly right. By the way, Google CEO, Alphabet CEO, Sundar Pichai said that, quote, AI is positively impacting every part of our business, and that features like AI overviews and AI mode are performing well. So the question is how they make money off that, because people buy advertising because they know you're using all that stuff and you're going to see that advertising. It's really something what they had. Now, Tesla, on the other hand, didn't fare so well yesterday with their second quarter earnings report. A significant drop in both revenue and profit. Revenue fell by 12%, profit down 16% compared to the same period last year. Lots of factors that analysts are attributing this decline to. Decrease in just demand for their autos, drop in revenue from regulatory credits. That's the old, what do you call that? Cap and trade
90%
stuff.
of the prospective buyers of your vehicles now think you're Satan incarnate.
That was not a smart move on his part, in my view, to dive that deeply into politics. That is being cited, by the way, by the investment community, and they're telling him back off. Have you noticed that what's the new party he talked about? One America or something? Have you noticed he's kind of backed off on that a little bit? You know, it was all the rage, 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. I hadn't heard much about that lately.
Welcome to the Internet in 2025, where everything lasts about 13 minutes.
He did Elon Musk. He did express some optimism about the future, especially autonomous vehicles. I think that is a huge opportunity for the company and for the automobile country in general. They're expanding their robo-taxi service as well. We're stepping aside for a break. Danielle Morgan with the Tourism Association at 11:05. Stay with us.
If you're about to... Are we going to do this? Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is a Middays. We're coming at you from the Element Well studio. The Neshoba County Fair, of course, we're there. Middays is there next Wednesday, and Thursday mornings will be on hand on Thursday. And then the house band debut performance, 1 o'clock on Thursday. Today, on In the Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, you'll hear an interview with the former director of Visit Mississippi, Craig Ray, O.C. Ray. In the Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar is presented by Superior Catfish. Remember, there's catfish, then there is Superior Catfish. It's U.S. farm-raised catfish with homegrown flavor. Ask for it by name at your favorite store or restaurant. Go to SuperiorCatfish.com for more info. I had more videos I wanted to play today, but I can't find any that don't have words in them that we can play on the air. It's unbelievable. What's up with these people? Incredible. Man, oh, man.
I'm starting to think that the rules and policies of the FCC are outdated compared to society.
Well, that's one way to put it. I'm not sure.
Because it's not just one side of the aisle that's doing the cursing, and it's not just the people that certain generations would presume are doing the cursing. So
I would agree.
Seems like it's not nearly as faux pas as it once was.
You know, I hope that's not the case, and I hope we don't lose some degree of decorum and respect and have a place and time for that kind of language. I don't happen to think that it being spewed in public is appropriate. Again,
well,
maybe.
I mean, there's always new words and slurs being introduced to the lexicon every day.
Well, that's true.
Like, for example, I think I can get away with saying this on the air because I don't think people old enough to have any power to do anything about it are going to really care. There's a new derogatory term or a slur for AI and robotics.
What's that?
It's not all that new. It was coined in George Lucas's The Clone Wars TV show as a way to negatively describe the droids they were fighting against, but it's clankers.
Okay.
So if you see something that is an AI-generated image, it's clanker-made. I don't want an answer from a clanker.
Clanker? Okay. How about that? That doesn't offend me like some of these other words do.
That's what I mean. Like there are words that people are going to get offended by 50 years from now that were made up in the last 10.
That's true. Okay, I buy that. I just think it's inappropriate. That's it. And I think we ought to be a little more respectful in our language. I don't think it adds anything to it. Again, when you're out with the guys in the locker room and so forth, in those kind of non-mixed company settings, I'm cool with that. No big deal. I'm not trying to be prudish about that. I get it. But I think the other thing that turns me off is just the number of females that have now resorted to that language. And I'm talking about these left-wing nutcase activists, and maybe that's the reason. I mean, every tirade they do, it's just full of it. And I'm looking at one right here, and this person's trying to explain income inequality. They want us to know about that, and it's got these little whiteboards showing, the percentage of wealth owned by the certain people of certain levels in this era versus that era, and how we get back to this. What's their plan for that? Just take from this group and give it to that group? I always want to know, okay, well, what do you want to do about that? Seriously, what's your plan? Just go confiscate their assets?
I'm going to say a joke that might get me in trouble, but it's worth it.
Okay.
Coming from a woman, it may not be that she actually wants solutions. She just wants to be heard.
Okay. That might get you in trouble. You're right. And this person is one of those that of course, now that I've watched a couple of videos, I get all of hers. And of course, she's, making this same argument that all the Democrats are. Safety net programs, and we got to take money from these people to pay for safety net programs. So again, their solution is government. Never stopping And I know.
Or she just wants the attention.
Well, could be. If it were not coming from, maybe I'm misreading this, high-level elected males as well, but yes. Oh, man. I'm so sick of this narrative, though. They can't have this because of them. You just got to give them more money. I'm sick of that, man. Sick of it. Is that their solution? If they said anything else other than that? No. It's always take from this group, transfer to that group, and while you're at it, skim off the top so you can enrich yourself, right? That's exactly the system they want. They lack second-order thinking there. They ought to be thanking those people for what they are paying for. It's always what I don't have, what I don't have, what I don't have. Unbelievable. Fox News, SuperTalk News, and Danielle Morgan with the Tourism Association.
Your listener of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays. We're coming at you from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday Eve.
Welcome now to Middays. It's Danielle Morgan, Executive Director of the Mississippi Tourism Association. Danielle, thanks for coming on.
For sure. Hi, Gerard. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So how are we doing from a tourist perspective this summer? Are we getting a lot of people visit the Magnolia State?
We are. Well, I just returned from Mississippi Municipal League, where I gave a session on short-term rentals and tourism. And judging by 49, I will say things are booming. It was a lot of traffic.
Yeah, we were down there as well. We did the show Tuesday, and as always, it certainly appeared that the event was well attended.
For sure, it definitely was. We had I had the morning slot on the last day, so that's you never know. But I had a great crowd and enjoyed getting to talk to everybody. It's always good to connect with those municipal leaders.
So, what did you talk to them about, Danielle, with respect to tourism?
Well, there's a lot of interest surrounding short-term rentals. So we talked about there's actually some legislation that we passed last year, Senate Bill 2805, which dealt with kind of the definition of lodging. There were some outdated definitions in the tax code that really didn't really address what lodging looks like now. So kind of clarified that language. The DMO Association worked really hard on that to kind of get that through. And so what it does was just closed any, misinterpretation of what lodging is and any gaps in tax collection, because we know that we certainly want short-term rentals are an important part of our tourism product, but we also want to be fair and equitable and make sure that they're held to the same standards as hotels and inns and other bed and breakfasts, things of that nature, that they're, making the same tax liability with sales tax as well as special tourism taxes and things of that nature. Okay.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. So are there any of the municipal leaders that you visited with that talked about the influx of tourists into their area and just the tourism industry in general? I know we talked to Mayor Dan Gibson of Natchez. Of course, Natchez is a great city for tourists to visit. So much incredible history, beautiful views, and so forth. What are they telling you? Are they saying that people are wanting to come to Mississippi and check it out?
They are. They definitely are. I saw Mayor Gibson as well on my way in. We talked about that, the growth, a lot of great things happening. They have that great RV park that just broke ground there in Natchez. So they're starting to start construction, which is very exciting. It's going to be a new product for that part of the world near the river. So excited about that. But yeah, everything we hear is people are more and more interested in tourism. They know that it's a tremendous economic driver of small business, and it's also the front door to other investment, economic development and nature. As we say, it all starts with a visit.
Yeah.
So that's really that as well.
Yeah. Well, lots of the mayors that I talk to certainly are excited about their various towns and cities and villages, and really busting at the seams with lots of good news coming from the municipalities across the state. And I think that's got to be effective in driving tourism when they've got so much progress being made at the local level there.
Absolutely. I think as I said, I think it's really all cohesive. The more our state gets noticed and the more recognition we have, the more tourism changes perceptions about Mississippi. Because as we know, when people visit, we often hear that they had a completely different idea of what Mississippi is until they visited. I recently had an executive of a data company tell me he was here working on a project, and he said, Mississippi changed me. He said the level of hospitality experienced here, he said, I'll never forget it. And it really changed how I look at hospitality from my own perspective. So
wow, that's so good.
I hope that was great to hear.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I don't doubt it. You know how it is. People maybe have a perception or a misconception of our state, and then when they come here, it does open their eyes. They see what we're all about in a positive way.
Absolutely. And, I think there's a reason we're the hospitality state, as we say all the time. So we're certainly working to help keep that image and strengthen that every day, and making sure that we're are training our hospitality staff and that they can, giving them the tools to provide those incredible experiences.
So what are you guys doing at the Tourism Association just to promote tourism inside our state? What activities you have going on?
Well, Visit Mississippi, they do a lot of the promotion. We focus a lot on education. One of our newer initiatives is Heart of Hospitality, which is a hospitality training program that we're offering free of charge. It's a video series, so hospitality employees can do it on their phone, their computer, their iPad. And they get a certification at the end. You can complete the program in about an hour, but it teaches some great skills on how to recommend things to visitors, how to deal with difficult situations, and make sure that we keep that hospitality up. So we have seen a lot of people around the state take advantage of that. We've certified about 750 people since December, so things are good. We've gotten great feedback that it's been a really great tool for them to kind of just shine up their hospitality skills.
I got you. Well, that's good stuff. The governor seems to also believe that this is a key industry for our state. He's fully committed to tourism in our state, as is our legislature. Good working relationship there continues?
Absolutely. The governor's been so supportive of tourism and understands its role in our state's upward trajectory, and how we continue to put our best foot forward and those perceptions, as we talked about. So they've been very supportive. Lawmakers have been very supportive. I feel like tourism's really gained a lot of ground in being respected for the serious economic driver it is, and not just the fun side of economic development. But I think that's always a work in progress. But we've made great progress, and we've certainly appreciated the support and investment in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we've got all these this massive investment in new business projects as well across our state that the governor rightfully has been touting. Do you feel like that maybe if nothing else, so many people coming into our state from out of state to be part of the construction phase of these projects, you think the word's getting out and that's driving tourism?
I do. Absolutely. I certainly do. I think that's a big part of it. I think that, a great place to visit is a great place to live too. So we certainly want to, our residents want to enjoy those same amenities that visitors do. So continuing to develop our communities, our downtowns. Main Street does a great job with that, making sure that our downtowns are strong. We know they're the heartbeat of our communities. Certainly, we love having those people in town, and we hope some of them will become permanent residents.
Yeah. Well, and I'm already hearing that, honestly, from some folks that I have encountered that have moved here initially temporarily to be part of the construction teams, but now they're talking about taking up their permanent residence here. So the word's getting out for sure.
Well, we love that. We're happy to keep growing and looking forward to all of these great things that this new development is going to bring to our state. And I think it's just it's a really proud moment to be a Mississippian, and looking forward to that continued growth and how we can play a role in building communities and helping share that story with the world about how wonderful Mississippi is to visit and live.
Anything that we're doing from the Tourism Association's perspective on just a national basis, beyond our borders, to promote Mississippi and encourage people to visit?
So yes, definitely. We've got some challenges at the international level with our Brand USA, which is the company who promotes travel to the United States. It's funded not with taxpayer dollars, but with visa fees from the ESTA program. Their budget was cut 80% this year, even though it's not taxpayer dollars. So that's a little challenging right now in a way that we have to continue. International visitation to Mississippi is strong. They love coming and seeing our music history and all of those different cultural aspects of what Mississippi's contributed to the United States. America 250, of course, coming up too. So we certainly want to keep those international visitors coming in and celebrating America. Yeah. I will say there's grants coming down the pike too for America 250 for communities. So that's something to look out for.
Okay.
Humanities Council.
All right. Well, it sounds good. Appreciate the update there, Danielle. Danielle Morgan, Executive Director, Mississippi Tourism Association. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gerard.
We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Start washing all our worries down the drain. Rain is a good thing. Rain is a good thing.
From Mississippi, Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
awesome. On SuperTalk Mississippi.
All right, give us an update on Hulk Hogan. He's passed away, huh?
Yeah, it was reported about 25 minutes ago now that Hulk Hogan passed away at the age of 71. It's being reported due to a cardiac incident at his home in Florida.
Huh. Wonder what that means. Cardiac incident. Not a lot of details associated with that.
Now I'm seeing, as of 5 minutes ago, suffering cardiac arrest at home. So it's a little bit more specific.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, real name Terry Gene Belia.
Oh.
Better known as Hulk Hogan.
Well.
Passed away today at the age of 71.
Sorry to hear that, man. Just saw him at the RNC last year. On the C Spire text line, we got lots of texts. Yep, Mark from Gulfport just let us know that. Scrolling through. Adam and Baldwin, rest in peace. Hulk Hogan. Let's see, just scrolling back here. Jeff in Gulfport says it's so hot down here on the coast that the Jehovah's Witnesses are doing phone calls instead of knocking on doors. Oh, my gosh. Let's see, what else we got? Darren and Jackson. Apparently, I misgendered a dude in a dress this morning at a doctor's appointment. He had makeup on and then a skirt with a 5 o'clock shadow. He handed me my receipt and said, "Thank you, sir. You should have seen the meltdown. Wow. Jeez. I don't know what people expect, though. I mean, what do they expect? That's part of the problem. You just expect people to conform to your twisted
delusions.
Right. Exactly.
You expect everyone else to live in fantasy land like you do, except that's not reality.
At all.
It's ma'am.
Oh, my gosh. Gerard, my new golf rule, this is Louis from the 662, when the heat index is at or above double what I shoot on the front nine, my round is over. I'm back at home right now, so that should tell you it's really hot, or I'm not a very good golfer. I hear you. Man, it can get hot. I tell you, when I'm out there playing, I'm searching for the shade. As soon as I hit, I try to go find some shade and get a little cooler. Does Mississippi have the water supply for the data centers? It does, and it turns out AWS is using reclaimed, recycled water, and they've been doing that.
How did we get the name of our state?
Yeah, there's no shortage of water in Mississippi, but it is kind of intriguing, and I did some research on this. It's interesting technology, what they use to cool their data centers with water instead of air. It's a combination, but it is wastewater that they're using that gets processed, filtered, and then they use that to cool the servers and the storage devices. It's the power supplies that power the servers. Mainly what they power are the fans to keep the servers cool. And that technology is improving dramatically, which means less heat dissipation and smaller fans, not as much a requirement. And that also means less power draw because that's what the power is mainly needed for. We've made tremendous strides in reducing the amount of power necessary to light up, if you will, the circuitry. It's the fans to keep those circuits cool so that they stay within the optimum or appropriate temperature operating range. And it's the power supplies, power the fans to do that. But the good news is lots of advances are being made on that technology. So the requirements for cooling aren't as significant as they once were, but now using wastewater is a major improvement in all of that. Brian in Madison wanted to thank you for the Caddyshack reference. Yeah, good stuff. Let's see. I'm looking at a text here from Herschel and Laurel. Looks like it's got to do something with PERS. I would tell you, Herschel, I see what you're saying here. Returning to work, the rules around that are fairly complicated. I would call the PERS office. They're really good about advising on those situations. And I don't know about if you re-enroll, I'd have to look at the law. I'm not sure, Rhino, if you were in the old Tier 4 and then you exit being an active member and you are re-employed, are you back in Tier 4 or are you now re-employed in Tier 5? I don't know the answer to that. I haven't looked at that. So, but I'd call the PERS people and tell them.
If I had to guess, I would think it would be based on the year of your first employment with them, but that would make too much sense, and government tends to not make much sense.
Well, you'd end up with essentially two sets of benefit calculations as well, for what that's worth. Not that you couldn't do that, but that's complicated a bit. So I'm not sure, honestly.
The only reason I take that stance is because most retirements are based on years or seniority.
Yeah. And that would be the other thing is are your years of service going under the new tier or the old tier? And then you run into situations where are you eligible based on the number of years? So it's a good question, though, that I hadn't thought about. And I'll try to do some research on it, but I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I'd give the PERS folks a call, and there might be some of them listening that will let us know. As a teacher, I have an AI program that can create a song for students with any music style for them to recall info. Auto-tune will be a whisper in time compared to AI music writer. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And that's an example of generative AI. That's a good one, way beyond just using it for a sophisticated search tool. Totally. So you describe something you want, it returns some content. In this case, it's music.
But we have seen in the last decade and a half, I won't go quite back 2 decades, although it's kind of when it started.
Yeah.
We've seen how putting more and more user-friendly music creation tools in the hands of, well, let's just say the not musically inclined, and there's not a dearth of instant classic hits in the realm of music much anymore.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like every once in a while, you'll turn on the radio and hear a song that came out in the last 5 to 10 years, and you're like, okay, yeah, I might actually listen to that 10 years from now. The vast majority of it, nope, nobody's going to know it existed after about a decade or two.
I think that's fair.
And I think with AI, because I've dabbled in the AI music creation, and there are ways you can make it sound presentable or passable, but none of it would ever be chart topping.
That makes sense. I
because
mean,
it's all derivative.
Yeah. It's not. It's hard to explain. It's not inventing it on its own.
No, it's finding, all right, I got this beats per minute, it's in this key, and we're going to write lyrics based on this query.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it'll spit out music that people would point to and say, yeah, that's music, but that music's never going to win an award, never going to bring a tear to your eye, never going to tug on your heartstring. It's literally just ones and zeros put in a way that your brain processes as the pattern of music.
Totally true. Yeah. So it's just much faster at scanning all of that history and all that data and all that information.
Oh, yeah. It does in 10 seconds what it would take somebody in their garage a year to pump out.
Right. And then
but
assembling
it's still the same
that.
quality.
Yeah, exactly.
If that person in the garage didn't understand music, then yeah, you made sounds. It's got a melody, but good for you.
Right, exactly. Which is why, I mean, to your point about the amount of time it would take to do that, that's exactly why so many companies are reporting significant increases in productivity. It just takes less time to accomplish some task.
I just think the fears and the worries of creative people being replaced by AI are way overblown, because there's a human element to creativity that we're nowhere near replicating with computers.
I agree, especially when you think about creating something new. And if you're doing that without a lot of input from something old, that's what AI can't do. It is still basing its generated content on something that's already exists. Right? I mean, that's how the technology works. So
that's why it can easily give you an animation of yourself in a certain animation style, but you tell it to create an entirely new style, it's going to look at you like you talked to it out of your ear.
And whatever it comes up with won't be new.
No.
It'll
be a hodgepodge of previously generated
stuff that's kind of copied, if you will. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. We're stepping aside for a break. We're in hour 2 of Middays. At 12:05, we've got Patrick Sullivan, president of the Mississippi Energy Institute.
Hey, this is Bob.
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, that's my favorite Rare Earth song there. Hey, big brother. So the president cut a deal with Japan. Largest trade deal in history is how he is describing it. And Detroit's not happy about it. They say that the tariffs that will be paid on Japanese imports imposed by the U.S. are actually lower than those imposed on the vehicles American manufacturers produce in Canada and Mexico. So they're not happy about that. They believe the president somewhat betrayed them in that respect. And then also, you've got extremely high tariffs on steel, copper, and some other materials that are imported into the country, used in the manufacturing process for those domestic automakers with plants inside our borders. But one good thing is that Japan is opening up their markets. They're more receptive with their new trade policies to American vehicles being shipped into that country. Honestly, how interested the Japanese are in more traditional makes and models of American vehicles, I don't know. Now, it could be that they do some reconfiguration of their product line, to accommodate this new market. Maybe is how that goes.
Well, that would likely require getting rid of the chicken tax and the cafe standards, because one thing that I know American consumers and Japanese consumers would both like to be able to purchase, but is currently against regulations or incredibly difficult to make within the regulations, would be a small, lightweight pickup truck.
Okay. Yeah,
the reason every single SUV and pickup has ballooned in size in recent memory is because once you get above a certain size wheelbase, you don't have to meet the overburdensome requirements for air pollution.
Yeah. Well, they'll have to figure that out. I mean, if they want access to the markets and something that is marketable and appealing. Yesterday, we talked somewhat. I shared the polls that show the 18 to 29-year-olds, the Gen Zs, are really embracing socialism and even communism. 60-something% in a Cato Institute poll have a positive view of socialism. 34% have a positive view of communism. And there's a report in the Wall Street Journal about Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and Alexandria, pardon me. My daughter's name is Alexandra. No I at the end there. And, of course, the crazy left-wing nutcase Zoran Mamdani. They're raking in the cash, man. Democrats are still divided, but they're pouring money into the campaigns of these respective Democrat candidates. $15 million is how much AOC has raised this year. $15 million for a House seat. The biggest haul of all 435 is what the Wall Street Journal says. This year, $15 million. 6 months into the year. The election is November 26th. She may end up with $70-80 million for a House seat. That's incredible. What's more incredible is her. So she's the biggest House fundraiser this year, even more so than the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Unbelievable. The Congressional Progressive Caucus, there's 6 members of those in that group. In the, I believe that's in the House. And they're raking in the dough as well. Unbelievable. Ro Khanna, whom we had on the program a couple of weeks ago, he's number 2 in the House at about $6.5 million. It's just amazing. So they're saying that these two, particularly Ocasio-Cortez, they're so willing to call out President Trump, and that is driving the fundraising for them.
I think it's more evidence of the old adage that a fool and his money are soon parted.
Yeah, it could be.
If you're dumb enough to buy what they're selling, you're dumb enough to give them your money.
It really is disturbing. So you got New York City and you got Minneapolis. We talked about that wacko. What's his first name? I can't remember. The mayoral candidate's name that I mispronounced yesterday, but I corrected it. He's raking in a bunch of money. He's very popular in Minneapolis. He's got a storied past. Served there. Omar. That's it. Is it Fatah?
Yeah.
Fateh, right? Yeah. So, I mean, there's the two major American cities that are poised to have self-avowed socialists. I'd really describe them more as Marxist/communist, honestly, based on some of the tenets which they support. And it's disturbing that so many young people in this country are buying into this stuff. I still say it to a great extent. If you look at it in New York, it's these elite, educated, economically well-to-do, well-kept liberals that are enamored with a system that, had they lived under it for the years they've been on the earth, they wouldn't have the situation they have today. They don't get that. I know that's second-order thinking. It's capitalism that allowed them to achieve their economic status. They don't get that. I know. Won't ever. What motivates them? Why all of a sudden do they feel compelled to go out and say, yeah, we got to take from this group, give to that group? What is it? Do they like get some sort of feel-good out of that? Is it the attention, as you like to tell us about all the time, which I do think is a big part of our society these days, particularly since we all run around with devices that allow us to see anybody in the world at any point in time. But these are people that are signing up for this garbage. I'm a bit shocked. So this is what's amazing. The very people that they being the Mondamis and the AOCs of the world purport to be champions for, that they say they seek to help, they don't seem to be as enthusiastic. It's the people that really don't need their help. I just don't get it. Minneapolis is a fairly affluent city as well, for example. But if you look at the rallies this Mondami guy's having, and you look at the people, they just don't look like destitute people, like people having a hard time paying their rent, for example. We got to have rent control, or can't afford the bus. We got to have free buses. Having a hard time buying groceries. They live in a grocery desert. How can you have a grocery desert in New York? How can that be? I mean, good gosh, they live on top of each other. I mean, they choose that lifestyle. There are grocery stores everywhere, and they're open 24 hours a day.
They're not grocery stores. They're bodegas.
Okay.
But they sell groceries.
There's no dang deserts the way they want you to believe.
Oh, but they'll define it so that you pull on the heartstrings of the weak-willed and bleeding hearts.
No doubt that the people that you see in the crowd supporting these fools, they're not having any problems getting to the grocery store or buying groceries. I don't know. It's almost
there
as
are
if
few more insufferable people on this planet than affluent liberals.
I totally agree. They are the people that seem to only exist the way they do, in the profile they do in this country. They're also the least tolerant.
Oh, yeah.
They're the least tolerant ilk of all. They want to lecture us about being intolerant. They are the most intolerant. It's incredible. Like the person that told us earlier about misgendering somebody. Oh, my gosh. What do you expect? And it's like, get over it. Who cares? How's that any different than having your name mispronounced? And it's no big deal. It's just not. That's from a person that has both names
Unless you
mispronounced.
have a room temperature IQ and everything causes you to want to commit violence because you don't have a functioning frontal lobe.
Oh, man.
Which is, sadly, a shocking percentage of the population statistically.
That is what's sad. I totally agree. On the C Spire text line, Jeff says, I rode in one of the driverless Ubers the other day in Atlanta. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it's incredible. Curtis and McCool says, profanity is weak mind.
Polly up of Mississippi.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
So, what bothers me is when the left lectures us about being uncaring, inhumane, incompassionate, simply because we don't want to send more money to Washington. I mean, it's all boils down to that. You don't care because you won't send more money up here to Washington so we can manage it, right? It's so misguided. And it, of course, insinuates you're just immoral. You're obligated to send money to Washington. So
because giving the benefit of the doubt, they're naive enough to believe that that's the good and right thing to do.
I think you're right about that.
It doesn't change the fact that they're dumber than a bag of hammers and can't really figure out how reality works, so they want Uncle Sam to be their dad.
As if that would solve the problem. As if we're not generating $2 trillion deficits right now. Right now. That's not a problem. It's not like, hey, we don't have money for this. That's what they think, is that somehow Republicans came up with, well, we can't afford this, that, and the other. No, I wish they would do that, honestly. We're still going to generate $2 trillion deficits, in my view.
I saw a political cartoon that perfectly summed it up, where it's government spending was the label of the big tree. And you've got the donkey and the elephant, and there's a tiny little limb, little twig getting cut off of it, and that's labeled rescission package. And, of course, the Democrat is screaming, we're all going to die!
Yeah, because we're cutting $9 billion in a $7 trillion budget with a $2 trillion deficit.
Because you cut 2 leaves off the big tree full of thousands.
Unbelievable. And it's money we shouldn't have been spending anyhow. So, yesterday, I said this at the end of the program. I didn't get to it. And that's just doing some math in my head, thinking about this whole deficit situation, and the states. Our state, fortunately, is just closed the fiscal year, generated a nice surplus. Revenues came in line with estimates. Spending, of course, appropriated as it is every year by our legislature. That's a done deal. Okay, so I started thinking about, well, what would happen if the federal government today, take Social Security and Medicare out of the equation totally, if the federal government today balanced the budget by cutting spending? Here's what I think would result, and I'll explain. Every state in the country would automatically, immediately be in a deficit situation at the state level. Medicaid, just that alone. So 46 cents of every dollar that goes out the door in Washington, outside of Social Security and Medicare, 46 cents borrowed. In other words, it's a deficit situation, deficit spending. So if that 46 cents weren't spent, for all those various uses. That includes defense. Then that trickles down to the states. It would right here in Mississippi. It means that rather than receiving roughly $7 billion a year for our Medicaid program, we'd receive 3.6. If we kept Medicaid the same, we'd all of a sudden have a $3.4 billion spending need at the state level. So we're able to balance our budget in other states as well because the federal government borrows money. I started thinking about that. That's crazy. You can't run a business that way. The federal government borrows money because they can. We can't. We have to balance our budget. Now, we could do it by borrowing money, but you're not going to stay elected very long. We don't seem to consider that at the federal level. But it just seems a bit disconcerting that the only way that we're able to balance our budget here in our state and numerous other states is because the federal government doesn't. It borrows money to make ends meet. Now, we pay for that in the form of inflation, generally speaking. And there are other risks associated with it as well, including the value of our currency, a dollar. But we're only able to achieve what we are financially, fiscally, at the state level because the federal government can and does and will deficit spend. If we all of a sudden got the federal government's house in order, the states would then crash and they'd have to figure something out. It's not a bad idea, honestly. Let it be figured out at the state. Let the people at the local and state level determine how they want to help and provide all these other services. We're out of time in this hour. It's Fox News, SuperTalk News. When we come back, it's Patrick Sullivan with the Energy Institute.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Back with you in the Element Wealth studio. It's hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays on this
Friday Eve.
Welcome now, Patrick Sullivan, with president of the Mississippi Energy Institute. Patrick, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yes, sir. Good to see you on this nice, cool summer day.
That's exactly right. All right, so a lot of talk about energy. It's all over the news because of this AI revolution sweeping the country and the world. Of course, you know, the president issued a big plan on that, an executive order that, and one of the pillars of that, of course, is making sure we've got sufficient energy to power the future demand for all these AI projects. And he noted that we're trailing China in energy and energy projects and just the future of energy production in this country. We're leading in AI, but we got to get our act together from an energy perspective.
Well, so we're better in energy than China. We're more diversified now in terms of construction.
Okay,
they've got a lot more.
Well,
going
I think
on.
that's what the president referred to.
They're building 30 nuclear reactors right now. There's a new coal plant I've seen that they say that comes online about every other week. They're adding. Of course, they're still trying to catch up to our level of per capita energy use, and they've got a long way to go. But they're doing a good job. I think important for everybody to remember is all of this demand that's created by AI, and it's not just AI and data storage. It's reshoring of industrial production. It's more electrification in all of our lives.
All this power.
All of these things are happening because we're demanding they happen.
Yeah,
there's real economic demand. It's our lifestyles, and so it's interesting to me to look at it in terms of I'm seeing a lot of this NIMBY issue, not in my backyard, and I've seen it with energy projects for years. But I think what I always say is the best energy is local energy. Okay. And so when you look at these, data storage and AI infrastructure, that's the infrastructure of today and of the future. And so I would make the same argument. The best projects are local projects because there's going to be more and more development that comes along with that. Are there energy challenges that come with it? Absolutely. Are those solvable? Absolutely. Yeah, especially for a state like Mississippi that is not quite population dense, very resource. Yeah. Abundance of resources, abundance of land.
We got everything we need. Yeah, I agree. So, nuclear is intriguing because for so long we haven't been building nuclear plants, right, in this country. But there seems to be a movement towards increasing the nuclear power footprint overall. Yeah,
it seems to be more serious than it has been for, I'd say, at least 4 decades. Yeah. Grand Gulf came online in 1985. It went through a challenging construction process. It started construction way back when Bill Waller was governor.
I didn't know that.
And Richard Nixon was president. It took so long to build. I think there was a tornado that came through there at some point. 3 Mile Island happened at some point. So there was a big regulatory change up in Washington that required the industry to hit the pause button on just about everything. So all of a range of factors delayed that. Came online in 1985. Well, here we are, 40 years later, and we've got at least 20 more years of that. And that is the cheapest source of power generation in this region. And so, aren't we glad that the project persisted through all those challenges? Yeah. And so here we are, 40 years later. There's very, very little activity that's happened in the U.S. nuclear sector in terms of new projects in 40 years. And so you got Trump's energy secretary is Chris Wright. He came from the private sector. He ran an oil and gas service company, very successful, MIT engineer. He may be the right guy to start to bring reason back into new nuclear development. Yeah, at a minimum, you've got all these old plants that we know are going to need to be replaced one day. Yeah. But what they're talking about is increasing nuclear capacity, which there is a ton of demand, industrial demand out there for carbon-free power, and that happens to be the only big source.
Seems like a great solution.
Other than hydro. I mean, the renewables are just so small, they're just little pieces out there that complement other parts of the system. But Secretary Wright, they may be the right group of people to start to bring reason, not that it's going to be without challenges, because these things are very, very expensive. They take very long times to plan and then construct. Meanwhile, all of this demand on an annual basis we're seeing is growing and growing and growing. Well, nuclear can't meet that demand because we just don't have
takes too long.
But natural gas, I mean, I read this morning that in the next 5 years, the U.S. is adding 3 times more natural gas electric generation than it did in the last 5 years. Okay. We're seeing some of that in Mississippi. Yeah. Right here down the road.
That's all coming from gas, right?
And that's really the only option. I mean, I think the Trump administration is starting to try to restart some coal projects out there because the rest of the world is building coal. Why shouldn't we? Yeah. We need it. We need the power. Coal is still the largest source of electric generation globally. We've just downsized here in the U.S. since the Obama administration tried to regulate it out of the industry. Yeah,
I made that clear. That was their goal. But we have an abundance of natural gas, right? I mean, just tons of it in this country, including here in Mississippi, in the southern part of the country.
We do. We've got plenty of it, and so more and more we're exporting natural gas, and then in Mississippi, about 80% of our electricity comes from natural gas. And so you can start to see the balance in energy policy that's going to be needed at state and especially at the federal level to make sure that we're always producing enough natural gas to meet the electric power demand, the export demand, heating demand, industrial demand, all the things that we use natural gas for. It's a great energy source, but we just use it for all these different things. And so more and more we're going to have to make sure we have policies in place where the oil and natural gas producers are encouraged financially to go out and explore and invest and produce more gas. One thing that I think about in terms of what we may see in the future, being 80% dependent on natural gas for electricity, well, what happens when natural gas prices go up and they stay up? I think a lot of people out there in the population, around here would say, well, what happened? And why are my electricity bills so high? And it's almost all going to go back to, if that happens, to natural gas price increases. And there's a lot of stuff that happened going back, 15 or 20 years in federal policy.
Okay. Well, would more nuclear kind of address that and protect against that risk?
I think it would be, and I think that's what the Trump administration is looking at. It's going to be smart to go ahead and make bold, reasonable, but aggressive steps in encouraging new nuclear. Starting in the Eisenhower administration, that's when really after World War II was really when the U.S. nuclear industry started, when they figured out how to split an atom.
Yeah,
And in a short period of time, there was more than 100 nuclear projects planned and then constructed over the next several decades. And then you hit this last 40-year period where there's been 2.
Okay.
And so I think that's what they're looking at is what are things that they can do in federal policy. Obviously, something went wrong in the last 4 decades. And so, what are things they can do in federal policy to restart that level of investment? And you've got to address the risk utility for the risk level for utilities.
Well, I'm seeing announcements. I'm sure you're aware of it as well. I think it's Microsoft restarting one of the reactors at 3 Mile Island to power their new data center projects there. I think Meta's got some initiatives. AWS. All these guys are looking at having perhaps behind the grid type nuclear power to serve their needs as well.
I think those are evidence that maybe we'll see new financing schemes because nuclear plants are so expensive. Maybe the industries that are demanding that carbon-free power will step in and help finance projects.
Well, that would do it.
Keep customers. I think the other thing you may see, you're seeing a lot about small modular reactors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty still on small modular reactors, but there's a lot of investment going in that too. And so that would be another way to reduce the upfront cost of new nuclear projects by having the capability to build it in modular units and not at a super large scale all at once.
It just feels like that there's so much R&D going on SMRs that we're going to get there, and it's going to become fairly common. Certainly what it feels like.
I hope so. I think it's a critical piece. It's just it takes a really, really long-term view.
Yeah.
It
does.
Literally a 100-year view in planning a project. And we don't do that on a lot of things.
Yeah, I know.
Especially in 4-year political cycles.
We got a break, but if you could come back, I want to talk to you about this group the governor commissioned not so long ago to focus on energy here in the state of Mississippi.
Sure.
Yep. We got Patrick Sullivan, president of the Mississippi Energy Institute, in the Element Well studio, coming back.
Hey, this is Bob, and if you're
covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians, Gerard Gibert, Middays with Gerard, SuperTalk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Well studio with Patrick Sullivan, president, Mississippi Energy Institute. So Patrick, you got to be talking to your peers, I guess, across the country that are all dealing with this explosion of artificial intelligence. And of course, data centers are cropping up all over the place. They consume lots of electricity, need lots of power. And everybody's grappling with this idea, this challenge of how do we make sure we get enough power to serve our future needs for these data centers and, of course, our regular consumers. And as you point out, there is expected to be an expansion of just factories and other sorts of facilities that also consume lots of power. So meeting that demand, and that was something that was front and center in the president's executive order yesterday, his AI action plan, as he calls it, and then our governor Tate Reeves also saw fit to create. I don't know if it's a commission or a task force or what exactly how it's styled, but it's a group of subject matter experts from just across the realm to discuss the future energy needs of Mississippi and make sure we're in good shape there. What's going on there?
Yeah, so I sat at the table when he had a meeting back in May. He had a lot of industry executives around the table. I would call it an initiative. And so it's just yet, I think, another area that the state is focusing on to try to enhance its competitiveness.
Yeah.
So these days it seems like electricity is more and more the currency for economic growth than it has been in the past. You go back 10 years ago or more, there's an abundance of electricity, surplus capacity all over the place. Now we're running out. And so it gets down to who can build it the fastest. And I think what you're seeing out of the Trump administration and what you will see in states like Mississippi, and it's not just Mississippi, it's kind of the heartland of the U.S. Some states, West Coast, Northeast, they have taken themselves out of the game. But looking in terms of how do we adapt old regulatory systems that just don't move fast enough to meet the day's demand?
Yeah, makes total sense.
What are reasonable steps we can take? What are appropriate levels of risk for states to take to encourage energy companies to invest in projects? As we were talking about with nuclear, all these projects are incredibly long-term. As I mentioned, with the explosion in natural gas generation, it's not just in the U.S. but in the world, all of the supply chains are locked up out there globally. So you just can't go buy a gas turbine off the shelf from GE like you could a few years ago. You get in the queue and maybe you've got a project that's operational in the mid-2030s or beyond. And so there's a lot of, I think, very intensive planning that utilities are going through right now. And I think for states, from a policy perspective, that's the one thing states can do is to give energy companies certainty and maybe take small steps maybe to lower risk in those energy projects where we can't see – we see clear demand out in the future, but you never know what the future is going to hold.
Well, I think it's good that we're seeing leaders at all levels of government at least put some attention into this because this is a growing challenge. It's a good problem to have because there's lots of investment being made. I was just talking earlier about Alphabet, the parent company of Google, announced their quarterly earnings yesterday, and as part of the announcement, the CEO indicated that they're going to increase their plans in capital investment from $75 billion this year to $85 billion, and most of that's going into new data centers, and so that's the case with all the major data center players. And then you got the president's tariff policies, which appear to be, at least we're starting to see some traction in driving manufacturing to some degree back inside our borders. Well, they've got needs as well for power, and that's kind of a new frontier in that respect. We haven't seen just an explosion of manufacturing in this country for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I think I look at Mississippi, and I've been here for my whole life, but the opportunities I think are really. I think we're to a point where we're starting to see some things in terms of economic growth that we never had. I mean, if you look back to the last 15 years, we kind of lagged behind our neighbors in economic growth. Now our state, just in terms of the big indicators, is pulling ahead. And so we're looking at all these different areas, energy being one of those, maintaining energy policy, not just maintaining, but being proactive about reasonable steps we can take. I'm involved with the State Workforce Investment Board, which is a business-based board that our task is to steer workforce development strategy. So our mission there is simply to improve the quality of our workforce. And the way we do that is to get more of our young people into pathways that are actually demanded out there in the labor market. And we're in the process of doing that. And so, and then if you just look at geographically where Mississippi is, I mean, we're right in the heart of the South, within reach of a lot of major markets, within reach of export markets. You put all these factors together, and I think that's why, you go back 15 years of sound policy initiatives here in the state. Yeah. That changed a lot of things that needing changing, that fixed some things. Not that there's still plenty of work to do ahead, but there's I think just kind of the stability, the good business policy base, all these other factors, I think are starting. I mean, I think, and it's pretty obvious to pay off. It's paying off in real terms.
I agree, and we hear it from those that are making investments in Mississippi. They provide that feedback that's what attracted them. Just all the above, as you indicate, have played a role in securing these big investments. What are you hearing in the industry about increasing the supply of oil and gas since the president took office and he reversed a lot of the very restrictive policies in place under the Biden administration? Are you seeing an interest in the oil and gas industry just to increase production there?
Well, the one thing you said is the most important part is we're past the Biden administration. So that administration was, they were actively trying to put people out of business. They were trying to reduce the American energy industry.
No doubt.
I mean, it's insane. But so we're past that. President Trump came in saying he wanted to reduce energy prices and increase investment in exploration. I don't think those two things go together. And so I think the energy prices, if you've seen it, have stayed pretty low. You're not seeing a lot of investment in oil and gas exploration and production. I think that will come in time. And the reason for that is you go back, you remember the shale boom, 2011, 2012. Yeah. There was overinvestment during that period. Okay. You think during the Obama administration, the economy, we were coming out of a recession, the economy wasn't really hitting in a lot of areas, but there was a lot of investment going into oil and gas because that was one of the good options out there. So I think too much. And so there are a lot of projects in that period that just didn't pay out. And so now I think the credit markets and the industry as a whole is more disciplined. And I think are just kind of waiting to see what they view as a more sustained price level that would be a safer investment environment for new projects.
And it still feels like there's a political dimension to that as well. I mean, we're certainly subject to having another Joe Biden in office that says, I want to put the oil and gas industry out of business. I mean, he didn't beat around the bush on that. And, of course, he's being pushed by the far left in his party. But they're not fans of fossil fuels, but we're not anywhere close to being at a point where we can do without that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. All the projections show us in the future using more.
More, yeah.
And it's not just the U.S., it's global.
That's exactly right.
There are a lot, billions, literally, people in the world that live very substandard lifestyles because they don't have access to energy.
Absolutely true.
They should get energy because their lives will get so much better.
Good point.
A lot of poor countries. But the industry, I think, is ready and eager to invest, but they're going to be patient. They're going to wait on, I think.
Will we ever get another refinery built in this country? I've seen the CEOs of the big oil companies, domestic oil companies, say, we don't think they will. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I was looking at some data the other day. So global refining capacity is going up. U.S. refining capacity is contracting.
Going down? Yeah. Right. I mean, we've shut down one or two in the last few years, haven't we?
Yes, and California's actively trying.
That's right. Yeah, I know they're trying to shut them all down.
Which they're on the other side of the Rocky Mountains. They're going to dig their own grave on that. But there could be a need for that. Okay. Or could be a need for simple expansions at existing facilities at one time.
Well, I've read reports that say that oil that comes out of the ground, like on our coast, is cheaper to send it abroad to refine than it is to ship it generally to Houston to refine it.
Yeah, crude goes all over the place. We import and export gasoline and diesel products. So
interesting ecosystem. There's no doubt. But if we wanted to get truly independent, that's what we need. We need more refineries here.
We need more, and I think the export part, I think we should export more. Okay. If the global market demands it, why shouldn't we sell it to them?
I totally agree. Patrick Sullivan, president of the Mississippi Energy Institute. Thanks for coming in, Patrick.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Yeah. We're stepping aside for a break. Half an hour of Middays remains. Stay with us.
From the Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Well, it's 8 o'clock in Boise, Idaho. I find my limo driver, Mr. Take us to the show. I've done made some plans for later on tonight.
So that apparently the police now are giving an update on the Hulk Hogan's death. So you think there's some foul play there going on?
I don't know about foul play, but I've seen reports that there have been a couple people from his inner circle that have come out in recent days before today and said that he's not on his deathbed, he's doing fine, he's turned a corner, and now he has a cardiac arrest at home and has passed away. So there may be some questions.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll see where that goes for sure. The Dow now down 186. The NASDAQ up 71. The Russell, the S&P, they're down just slightly. The 10-year interest rates, man, the president's all over that, still hanging around the 4.4% mark. Of course, your mortgages, credit card rates, and auto loans, et cetera, are tied to that. And the president wants to see those come down. And yesterday, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, he had some rather harsh words for Jerome Powell as well. He says he needs to step aside and lower interest rates. And so there's a lot of momentum building up against the Fed chairman concerning interest rates. A lot of people, especially in the Congress, just feel like that he needs to pull them back, that inflation is in check. I think his viewpoint, I'm speaking based on just comments that's been made by Jay Powell, is that we haven't seen the full impact of the tariffs yet. So they believe more time is needed to see that bake in to the economy. There are reports that Walmart, Target are raising prices on some items as a result of tariffs.
Yeah, Walmart got caught on that. They claimed they were raising their prices based on tariffs, and then somebody went and checked the price hikes, and it was about 98% products that were not impacted by tariffs.
I mean, that's within their purview for sure. They're free to charge whatever they want. I'm free to not buy it.
When you lie to your consumers and customers about why you raised the price, you're not really going to get the biggest smile on your customer's face.
I agree. There's a trust issue there, but there's no doubt that the cost of a lot of what they're buying is going up as a result of tariffs. Now, maybe there's no relationship between what they're paying more for on the input side and what they're raising prices on. But it could be they're raising prices on product X to pay for the additional cost of product Z. I don't know. I'm not privy to Walmart's
if that were true,
pricing
you would
strategies.
think the percentage would be closer to 50-50.
I agree.
And not so crazy on one side of, wow, all these things that went up have nothing to do with tariffs.
That's it's certainly possible. But there's no doubt that the cost of stuff is increased. I've talked to lots of small business owners that are suffering from the increased cost of goods coming their way. Tariffs, many of them are absorbing it and not passing on to their consumers. They just don't feel like they can. That it would make the cost of those products just unmarketable, unsellable. So I think we got a little work to do there to see the final, I guess, impact. On the C Spire text line, I think they shut down 2 refineries in Louisiana in the last couple of years. Yeah, I just know that, and you heard Patrick confirm it, that refining capacity in this country has contracted. And I know there's this chemical mismatch, if you will, but between the refineries we have in this country that were built a long time ago and a lot of the oil that we extract from the ground these days. So our refineries are built around what's called the dirty oil, and refineries abroad, most of them are. Refineries abroad are built more around the light, sweet, as it is described, oil. And I think it has to do with the sulfur content, if I'm not mistaken, Rhino, of the actual oil itself, what causes it to be categorized as dirty versus not dirty. I think it's sulfur. Is that the main chemical ingredient? I know you're taking a look at that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, okay, so it's sulfur. So apparently this fracking technology that has allowed us to dramatically increase the production of oil, crude oil, pull it out of the ground, the sands itself, that is mostly light sweet crude. So we send that overseas to be refined, and we import the dirty oil from China. I think we get more oil from China than any other country as far as imported oil, and that goes straight down to Houston where the refineries are built around the dirty oil. So, but you heard Patrick talk about, doesn't appear there's much interest in truly expanding production right now because the price has been fairly stable in that $65 a barrel range, and I think everybody's kind of comfortable with that at this point.
Have you seen the latest piece of Americana that loser liberal leftists have decided is just too far?
What's that?
The Blue Angels. There's been an organized protest in and around Seattle. I think the Blue Angels are supposed to fly today. They might have already flown in Seattle. But say no to Blue Angels. They're too loud. They cause war trauma. They put out pollution.
I'm looking at the article you just sent me. Seattle Times. Undeadgum believable, man. Good grief. Do they just wake up every day looking for some stupid cause to get behind and raise hell about, to get attention?
No, they wake up every day miserable with a big hole in their soul from any number of reasons, and they want everybody to be down in the dumps with them. So they try to drag you down with them.
I agree with that. And you know, something we've said on the program before, the first comment on the post, liberals hate everything fun and good. If they see people enjoying something, they go after it. 100%. That is so true. It's to your point. They're just miserable, aggrieved
Unless it's
people.
Debauchery.
That's true.
They're gung-ho for debauchery.
They just want you to be miserable. They can't stand to see you having fun and enjoying yourself. Oh, my gosh. I tell you what I'm enjoying is the IRS has cut its workforce by 25%. I'd say that's huge. That's a big victory there.
75% too little.
So you got that going on in Washington. We've also, of course, got D&I, Tulsi Gabbard, who says she's got a treasure trove of documents that seem to implicate Barack Obama as orchestrating what looks like a coup, honestly.
I bet Hillary's really regretting calling Tulsi Gabbard a Russian asset at this point.
And then you've seen some reports. Was it part of that dump about Hillary being on meds?
The Russian intelligence that they decided they weren't going to put out because they thought Hillary would be better for them included her psychological problems requiring the prescription of heavy tranquilizers.
And they were going to use that as leverage, right, to get her to do things, to influence her, to do things that they wanted. If you don't do this for us, we're going to tell everybody that you're mentally sick. I mean, that's true. That's what we're learning now. I'm not exaggerating here.
No, and it makes a lot of sense in hindsight when you see the videos of her where the reporter asks her the question and she starts wobbling her head, or when the balloon popped and she's on stage with Bill and, oh, look at the balloon! Just because she was high as a kite on tranquilizers.
And you've also seen more video of her collapsing, getting into her vehicle, right? On the street.
Thrown in the van
and
losing her shoe.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that's kind of scary to see a person just sort of just dribble away like that. Oh, my gosh. Let's see. If it's true, does it technically constitute treason? You know, that's on the C Spire text line. That's a little over my pay grade. Certainly D&I Director Tulsi Gabbard called it treasonous conspiracy is her term that she's using to describe it. Ask about the energy plant in Satarsha, John in Hazelhurst. Yeah, that's gone viral. I've got some friends that have some hunting land up in that area. That's, of course, up around Yazoo City. I've heard this as well, that there's some big project going on up there that involves increasing the energy footprint here in the state of Mississippi. Yes, several folks have texted in about Hulk Hogan. Just passing that on, folks. He has passed away, 71 years old, and apparently the police are going to be conducting a little press conference related to that any minute now. Average first-time homebuyer in America is 38, says Ben from Madison. Sadly, it doesn't shock me so many young people gravitate towards socialism when they realize they'll never own their own home. We'll continue that on the other side of the break in the final segment. Stay with us.
At Fillmore Buick, Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
He was a beauty from South Alabama. Her daddy had a heart like a 9-pound hammer. Think he even did a little time in the slammer. What was I thinking?
So continuing with Ben from Madison's text. I saw that same statistic, Ben, that the average first-time home buyer in America is 38. So he just said it doesn't shock that people are turning to an alternative economic system, such as socialism, as a cure for that problem, a way to address it. He goes on to say, does Ben, I obviously understand socialism is not the answer to that problem, but unfortunately the people who believe in it truly don't understand the history behind socialism and communism.
Which I reiterate, those are the same people that have spent the last decade of their lives propping up the concept of lived experience and how you should listen to those with lived experiences. You might learn something. Except when it comes to the lived experiences of those who have escaped socialism and communism to come to a capitalistic society and tell of the evils and horrors under those two systems.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see, you know, if you think about, though, Ben, just thinking through kind of what is going on with respect to the housing market and the price of houses really spiked considerably during the COVID era. I mean, the COVID stuff just really wreaked havoc on our economy. And that primarily was driven by what was believed by our government, at least. And that's when the president, the current president, was the president at the time, was relying on people from his inner circle that were healthcare professionals that just provided bad guidance at the end of the day. So and of course the other thing is the left in this country, they love this deal. They absolutely thrived on it. This idea that they had all this newfound power, it's emergency powers, to just start shutting everything down, sending everybody home, and in doing so, the federal government, state governments all said, well, gee, we got to do something about the fact that people aren't working, they're shut down. We're just going to drop money out of helicopters, and we're still paying for that today. And may permanently pay for it until wages start to catch up. And that's only going to happen if we increase productivity, which is why all these technology investments are so, I know, second-order thinking here I'm going through. But it's the truth. It's so we drop money out of helicopters. That's spiked inflation. Everything is up, including houses. Remember the lumber prices, how crazy they got during that time period? Making houses virtually unaffordable. And so now you've got a bunch of people sitting on houses they overpaid for with low interest rates, and they're sitting on them.
It also doesn't help that there are 50 million illegal immigrants currently within the borders of the United States demanding housing alongside the legal aliens and United States citizens that should be ahead of them in line at the very freaking least.
I agree with you on that. And that's another situation where the left said, no, that's not causing any problems.
No, just 1 in 6 people are here illegally, and 1 in 6 people are competing with you for the same housing.
Unbelievable. So on the C Spire text line, Minneapolis and New York City and Vermont are successes the public school systems can crow about. Public education is achieving its intended effects. Same was true in the city of Jackson by electing Lumumba, the elder and the younger. Same is true in the city of Greenwood by electing Kendrick Cox instead of Lamar Liddell, both black males, in the Democrat primary this spring, says George in Greenwood. Don't blame wealthiness or elitism as much as you give credit to the government schools. Not really following that, I don't think.
Kind of fell apart at the end there. It was making sense for a little bit.
Yeah, you lost me on that. So how do we get out of this mess, I think is the question.
You do away with the Department of Education is the first step.
Because
obviously
is underway.
Education outcomes have not increased across the board for the United States of America since its implementation under Jimmy Carter.
No doubt.
How about we just go back and take everything Jimmy Carter did and do away with it? Because obviously it ain't freaking working.
Well, you could point. So what the left wants to do, what Mondami and AOC and this nutcase in Minneapolis, Fata, I think, is that how you pronounce it? We talked about that the other day. What they will contend is that, it's capitalism. It's the private sector. It's all those rich people that made their money by serving society. That's your problem. That's what's causing you pain. We're going to fix it with more government.
It's because they're stupid.
That's just dumb. Ignoring the reality is that, no, it's government that created the dang problem. And you're going to fix it with what created it? That's stupid, no doubt. We're out of here today. Thanks so much for joining us. Back with you tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.